There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. This is Sid with Squeegeology, and we've been talking about relational capital, and this is my second video, so this is the second part. So I'm going to call this Relational Capital Part 2. Part 2, okay? Cool. So, relational capital, one thing that gets people hung up a lot when we talk about networking is they're like, I hate to go network. I hate to network, because I'm sure you've been to them. But like networking events, maybe you joined a BNI group, Business Network International, or something of that matter, where you have to go talk to people and hobnob and whatever. And maybe that's not something you enjoy. Or maybe you enjoy talking to people, but you're doing it all wrong. So here's what I want to share with you, and this is what's incredibly, incredibly valuable. The number one thing you do when you go network with people is bring me a pizza. I'm kidding. Bring value. You want to bring value to people that you meet. To people. Okay? Well, how do you do that? All right? Guess what? This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to tell you a story. So a couple of years ago, within the span of a couple of days, I had two different people reach out to me and say, hey, Sid, could we grab a cup of coffee? And this happens from time to time. So when somebody wants to grab a cup of coffee, I try to batch my time. So here's what I did. We go to the coffee shop. It's called The Break. I love this place. Coffee at The Break. Well, I told person number one, we'll call her D, because that's her name. I said, meet me at the coffee shop at 8 o'clock. I've got 30 minutes. And then I told the next person, let's say we'll call her Jen, because that's her name. And I said, meet me at the coffee shop at 8:40. I've got 30 minutes. And I left myself a little bit of grace time there, 10-minute gap. Okay. And both of them agreed, and we lined it up. Said, meet me at the break. And sure enough, 8 o'clock, I just got my coffee and sat down. Dee shows up. And she's a very nice young lady. I forgot where I met her, but she wanted to talk because she's in business, and she had some questions. Well, when we sat down, I found out right away that she's in the business of selling advertising, radio advertising. How many of you have done radio advertising for your cleaning company? Have you ever done that? I have, and my personal experience is that for the methods and the way, the marketing strategy that we have, it's not a good fit. I don't like radio advertising because it's too broad. It goes everywhere, and the guy on welfare that lives in a mobile home park with 8 windows, he hears it, and the woman that lives in the big house with 80 windows, maybe she hears it, but it's too broad. So I never saw an ROI. Anyway, Dee wants to talk to me about radio advertising. It turns out she didn't really want to meet with me and ask me a question about business. She wanted to sell me, and I told her, hey, look, that's not a fit for me. Nope. I don't do radio advertising. I said, but I would like to help you. So I started asking her questions about, what's the ideal market? What are the types of people that actually buy advertising already? Maybe I could introduce her to someone in that industry that owns that type of business in our community. And she didn't want to hear it. She just kept trying to convince me, sell me on advertising the radio. So it was a very unproductive meeting, even though she's a nice person. So I wasn't very happy. All right, so person number two. Number two, here comes Jen. I'm already a little bit jaded by my recent experience with Dee. But Jen comes in and sits down, and we chat for just a minute. We met each other in a Toastmasters group. She said, hey, I think you're pretty cool. We should meet and get to know each other a little bit more. Well, she starts asking me questions. She asked me about my business. She asked me about me. What do most people like to talk about? Themselves. Okay, so she's actually trying to get to know me a little bit, find out where I'm at, and she, when she gets to know the business a little bit, she says, hey, I know a real estate agent that has a lot of listings, and they're high-end listings, and I want to introduce you to. So she offered right away to introduce me to somebody that she thought could give me business. And then she offered to introduce me to somebody else that she thought that I could help. And then the conversation goes on, and she continues to introduce me to other people. By the time we get, to the third person, I'm like, what can I do for you? How can I help you? because that's what I want to do. And so she tells me and stuff, and we ended up doing some business together, and it was amazing. And I will say that this Jen is probably the best networker I've ever met. She had only been in Missoula for 6 months, and um, she knew as many people in the community as I did because she is a go getter, and she goes and meets and tries to help people. All right, so how does this apply to you? Let's see if we can figure out a way. All right, so let's say you have an opportunity to go to some sort of event that could be a networking event. Um, it's a grand opening, it's a fundraiser, or it is a Chamber of Commerce networking event. What most people do when they show up is they show up with a stack of business cards in their hands, and they are looking to meet people, and they're like, hey, here's my card. Let me give you my card. Let me give you my card. Let me give you my card. There's really exactly zero value in that. That's just, it's not inappropriate because most people do it that way, but let's just say that that's the wrong way. Here's what you do. If you have an opportunity in advance to find out who's going to be there, you do a little bit of homework and see who's going to be there, who's in charge, who are the leaders in the room, and find out what they do, what industry they're in. So find the leaders. You can often do this in advance. You could, if you're going to a Chamber of Commerce thing, talk to the Chamber of Commerce people that are putting it on and say, hey, who's going to be there? Are there any regulars that I should meet? I'm kind of new in this. And they'll tell you. And then make sure that you meet them. Another thing you do is make sure that you know one person when you walk in the door. Or you know one person ahead of time. Or even if you don't know anybody, you can introduce yourself to somebody, ask them a little about themselves, and then ask them, who should I meet? I mean, who's one person here that I definitely should get to know that is really cool? Find out. Okay? That's for starters. Now, next thing, excuse me, when you actually start to meet people, don't be shy. Just walk up, stick out your hand, and say, hi, I'm Sid. We haven't met. And then before it goes any further, ask them about themselves. Go, why are you here? Why are you here? What I usually don't make my first question, what do you do? Because everybody asks that question. Find out another question you can ask. Say, what's important to you in the community? Or why do you support this organization? Or how do you fit into this big puzzle? Or are you from here? Why do you love this area? Ask questions that are more pertinent, more valuable, and they actually help you get to know a person. So do that first. Ask good questions. And what I tend to do is just interview people. And I'm not really interviewing them, but I just try to keep them talking about themselves. And then if I see something where I go, oh, maybe this would be helpful to this person, then I'll make a suggestion, or I'll say, oh, do you know so-and-so? And if they say, yeah, well, great. If they say no, I go, maybe I could introduce you to so-and-so because they are very cool. And you are very cool. And as soon as you make an association like that, they think that you are cool. But when you go to a networking event, you want to meet people and get into good, solid conversations with them, but do one very specific thing, and that is be valuable. Just bring some value. And then make sure after your conversation and stuff, you have their contact information. And then the next day, if you shoot them an email that says, hey, it was really great to meet you. I enjoyed talking about X, Y, and Z. And look forward to talking to you again in the future. By the way, I thought you'd find this article interesting. You send them something of value. Or even better, if you want to stand out like crazy, do something ridiculous and send them a handwritten note, a good old-fashioned snail mail. Send them a note that says, it's great to meet you. You're awesome. A note, not a moat. Okay. And look forward to seeing you next time. And then stay in touch with people. Because pretty soon, as you begin to cultivate this, it really is like growing a garden or something. Once you begin to cultivate, you're planting all these little seeds. Guess what seeds tend to grow if they're nurtured? Tend to do if they're nurtured. They grow. They grow. And when they grow, that's a really odd looking flower because most of them are not blue. But when they grow, they become valuable. And when they grow for a long time, then they bear more fruit, and you get a harvest. And that's what I want to tell you about relational capital, part 2. All right, I really appreciate you guys. This is Sid with Squeegeology. I will see you next time. If you find this valuable, please share it, like it, do something cool with it. Most of all, put it into action so that you grow your business. I'll talk to you later.